Shohei Ohtani is now in the National League West. What do the other Locked On hosts from the NL West teams think about that?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I'm an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and I finished up 5 seasons here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's make it 6. And you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram or here on YouTube. And you can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you're leaving any posts there, please be sure to use the hashtag EverydaySully. Quickly, let's do the trivia question. A couple people got it right. I see John Murphy Jr.'s answer to it as well. The question was, who was the first player to receive a 10-year free agent contract from a Major League Baseball team? And the answer was Wayne Garland. Wayne Garland signed for Cleveland a disastrous contract. It was 10 years and I believe $3.5 million. He got hurt very quickly and he didn't become the star that the Indians hoped he would become. There have been many other 10-year deals, the latest one being Shohei Ohtani. So let me tell you what's going to happen in the show. The Ohtani signing is obviously the biggest news in baseball right now. And I wanted to get the reaction of the other hosts in the Locked On Podcast Network who follow other teams in the National League West. We heard from Jeff Snyder just as the signing happened. I want to get the Locked On Dodger perspective. But I also want to get Locked On Giants, Locked On Padres, Locked On Rockies, and Locked On Diamondbacks to chime in as well. So what we're going to do is this. This is actually a 2-part episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking with Ben Kaspick and Javier Reyes. Ben Kaspick was the host of Locked On Giants. Javier Reyes is the host of Locked On Padres. And another episode is going to drop today. We're going to talk with Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies and our buddy Miller Thomas from Locked On Diamondbacks. And when these 2 episodes drop, we'll hear everybody's perspective. And I'll have a few other thoughts as well. So let's kick things off with Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres. We have Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres, whose team was the team that signed all the All-Stars just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Lots have changed. Hi, Javier Reyes. How are you handling this news?
Handling as one handles it. I think that there's a lot of takes and reactions out there. I know that we had the false hope as Padres fans that he would be signing with the Blue Jays instead, which I think, frankly, would have been a little bit more exciting for the sport. But nonetheless, it's tough. And I think that one of my biggest issues has been, just to get on a soapbox for a second, is how much criticism and how much there's clearly a tiny bit of an agenda to make fun of the Padres when they fail for trying to spend in a division that has the Dodgers, who have traded for Turner and Scherzer, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. They keep getting, especially over the past few years, the top guys, and now Shohei Ohtani. Yet I don't see anyone ever complaining about the Cleveland Guardians just hanging out in the AL Central, or the Milwaukee Brewers just hanging out in the National League Central when they don't have that level of competition. So look, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of fury in me, but it's tough in a lot of ways for Padres fans right now, especially after trading Soto.
I'll put some things on the table right now, especially if anyone from Locked On Padres is not familiar with me. I will never criticize a team for spending and trying to make the team better. That's the ownership's job. And I will always trash a team like the Baltimore Orioles, who have money and have a 100-win team that they're treating, that they're nickel and diming. I will always roll my eyes when I hear that, oh, we don't have the funds. We don't have the funds. Cleveland has like billionaire owners, and they have if they had a mediocre payroll, they may have won a pennant every once in a while.
Exactly.
I do not believe that the A's are poor. Open your books and prove it. I do not believe the Rays are poor. We have a history of owners lying about this and colluding about this. So if there will ever be an ownership that signs players, whether it's the Padres who said, let's try to win for a franchise that's never won a World Series, or the Dodgers saying, hell, we got the money, let's spend it. I will never trash a team for doing that. I will always trash a team for being cheapskates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
For example, the Red Sox that I grew up with, who could print money, trading away Mookie Betts to save, hold on, let me just check my ledger, $4.23.
It's just like to do all of that. And it keeps, it stinks because on top of the Padres trying, we keep being the recipients of other teams not trying at the same time, i.e. the Mookie Betts thing, Freddie Freeman, although the Braves is a little bit different because they also brought in Matt Olson. But even still, like, all these other teams that have needed first baseman for years, they didn't go after Freddie Freeman, right? Like the Yankees didn't do it either, like just to name some teams. So it's really rough to then have this team that I think, objectively speaking, I know that I'm the Padres host, but was one of the best developments for the sport. A team that would not sign Chase Headley to like $60 million is now giving out money like it's nothing. And the Dodgers come in here and now they've kind of just taken that in full in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, we still got Tatis, we got Machado, we got Bogarts, and we still clearly have a high payroll, by the way. That shouldn't be forgotten. The Padres still have a high payroll, and they still have other moves that they will be making, like Jung-Ho Lee potentially this week. You know, maybe now that they cleared up some space, there was reports about Blake Snell. Maybe they just bring the guy back so they can still compete too. And I think it's important to separate what it means for baseball in terms of like the Dodgers becoming this mecca of media relevance even more than ever versus on the field. Go check the Dodgers playoff record the past like 15 years. They're basically James Harden, absent a truncated 2020 season. And that doesn't mean that I fault them for the Ohtani thing. It's great. Good for them. I do think it's better that he's with the Dodgers than the Angels in terms of objectively speaking for the sport, because I think the Angels clearly don't know what they're doing, right? So at least he's going to be in a winning position. But if you're just talking on field, the Padres, the Diamondbacks just swept the Dodgers this year. The Diamondbacks, an 84-win team. The Dodgers are just James Harden. So, you know, I think that those are two different things. It stinks that the flourish of the Padres will probably just not be nearly as enticing now with the Dodgers having Ohtani. But when it comes to winning, do not mistake that they can absolutely still win. Maybe not the division, but they can get into the playoffs. They can make some noise. But again, it's just frustrating that we keep being the recipients of other teams not doing the big moves.
You brought up what I was going to ask you, because if you look at it, it's like, okay, you're not going to pass Los Angeles in the standings. Okay. Watch this be the year that they finally do. But
that'd be amazing.
It would be kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But you also have to say that's not the point. The point is you have to be one of the wild card teams. The point is that you have to play better than, who are the three wild card teams this year? Arizona, Miami, and who was the third one? Was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because Atlanta won the division.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to beat that trio to get into there. I think it's possible San Diego could play better than Miami. I think it's possible San Diego could play better than Arizona. And yes, I think Chicago and St. Louis are going to improve. And who knows, but like the Mets are going to fall off. And you know, you don't know what's going to happen to some of these other teams. So the most important thing for the Padres, like you alluded to, is not to say how are we going to be better over 162 games than LA, but how can we get into the dance and take our chance?
Exactly. And they can absolutely do that. And don't get me wrong, it's still a sad day to be a Padres fan. Again, it's so frustrating. All that they've done they get Freddie, they get Max Scherzer, and then Trey Turner as a little treat. You know what I mean? Like they barely got, and they didn't get anything, the Nationals, for him. Meanwhile, the Padres have to give up, you know, their entire future and then take out a loan or whatever. Although I do think that story was exaggerated just a tiny bit, because I think plenty of teams have taken out loans. So I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But nonetheless, I still think that they could be competitive. But it's sad that I think what this move means is not from a competitive on-field. I know I've said this already, but not from the competitive on-field standpoint, but the attraction story of baseball standpoint, for not just because of Ohtani, but also because there's a little bit of an agenda against the Padres, and it's unfortunate, but you know what? Hey, Ohtani can't pitch next year, so keep that in mind, guys. And they still have a lot of problems with pitching, so hopefully some other teams will please take up the best free agents and not just let the Dodgers come in as a factor of a lot of Ohtani's contract being apparently like a lot of deferrals to help them add more players. So I'm begging you, other teams with budgets, don't just put everybody on the Dodgers. That would be great.
And that is Javier Reyes' plea. And Javier Reyes is the host of Locked On Padres. He's mad, but he's not giving up.
Never, as Michael Caine would say.
Never surrender. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off your NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Spanning the National League, as we're going around to each National League host, let's bring on the saddest one. Oh dear, this has been Kaspick of Locked On Giants. I'm treating it as if there's a death in your family right now. Ben, talk me through what you're going through, and keep in mind if you need a Kleenex or something or a hug, I got him.
What's crazy, Sully, is that I'm kind of used to this, and so I'm kind of numb, and I just sat there in kind of stunned disbelief for a good long while after hearing of this news. It was at the same time kind of the expected outcome all along, I would say, but also simultaneously we're talking about yesterday hearing about he may go to the Blue Jays, and even that was rough as a Giants fan, because you and I did a show last year, 88 wins to Ohtani or whatever, and they couldn't even finish over 500. They don't get Ohtani. As bad enough he goes if he were to go to the Blue Jays, but no, it's the Dodgers. Of course, It's the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, look I'm trying to, as you're on this ledge, and I'm trying to not have this turn into a frantic ending here. The Giants have money, and the Giants have been wanting to spend this money for the last couple of years. They have not been successful at spending said money. I personally think, and again, noted, all my predictions have been wrong. But as I make another prediction, I should start saying that everyone's going to sign with the Dodgers just so that they don't, for your sake. But
please.
I think the Giants are going to be galvanized right now to try to sign Yamamoto. I think that they're going to try to do that. Melvin is there. Melvin's a fine manager. There is some talent on the team. And despite Ohtani being yet another MVP on this team, the Dodgers have tremendous pitching issues right now that Ohtani can't help in 2024. And the Giants, if they improve their pitching staff, will be in a position where, I don't think they're going to pass Los Angeles in the standings in the regular season. But if they could put themselves in a position to be one of the 3 wildcard teams, Giant fans, as I said this to Javier Reyes when I did my segment with him, Giant fans are like Padre fans. They shouldn't be concentrating on the Dodgers right now. They should be concentrating on Miami, on Philadelphia, on St. Louis, on Arizona. Finish ahead of them and get yourself into the dance, and hope that the Dodgers do what they've done almost every year since 1988, with the exception of the COVID year, which is fall flat on their face at one point before the championship is won.
I think that's 100% the correct take here. Is that this was already a team that was out here winning 111, you know, 2 years ago, and then 100. They take a big step back and they win 100 games this year. So it's not like they were already. It's not like they were vulnerable to being like consistently passed in the standings. I mean, maybe if you're the team that gets Ohtani, it takes you in that direction. But even if the Giants got Ohtani, like especially next year, because he's not going to pitch, it doesn't move the needle enough to even put you close, I think, to where the Dodgers are even without Ohtani. Although what you're saying about the pitching for the Dodgers is definitely true as well. But of course, the offseason is young and a lot of players are still out there. But you're absolutely right. Like the Dodgers aren't the team to focus on. It's getting into the dance. And we've seen the last 2 years with this new format that these wild card teams, the Phillies in 2022 and the Diamondbacks, who swept the Dodgers, by the way, like you mentioned, you know, the playoff failures in 2023, both those teams go to the World Series. And so you don't have to be that team with the superstar. And like the Padres, they had the same kind of Soto, Machado, Tatis, and look where that got them. And then they've like blown it up. And so the Dodgers were already excellent. Despite their pitching, you know, question marks, I think they'll be excellent, you know, in 2024. But you just got to get in. And
Yeah,
you only play this team like what 12, 13 times a year. It's already tough. It just got tougher, but the optics aren't fun, you know.
Well,
But,
think of
but
the
at
last.
the same time, just get in. Just get in.
Think of the last four National League champions of a full 162 game season were the Nationals, who were a wild card team, far inferior to LA. Atlanta, who didn't win 90 games when they won the division in 2021. Philadelphia, who was a road team in the wild card series, and Arizona, who was a road team in the wild card series. So yes, the Dodgers are going to win 100 some odd games like they've done in each one of those years I mentioned. And another team wound up getting there. And the Giants, I think, should be focused on one of two players, Yamamoto or Snell. Get one of them onto the team, and they have an advantage in their pitching staff. And I'll tell you who I wouldn't touch with a cattle prod is Bellinger. If there's anybody who strikes me who's going to sign a 7 or 8 year deal in response, well, we didn't get you Ohtani, but we got you Bellinger. And then 3 years from now, an article is going to be written about the worst contracts in baseball. Well, yeah, the Bellinger deal will be in there. I wouldn't touch him with a stick at this point. But I think the Giants should be focusing all their energy on either Yamamoto or Snell to put them on that team, to put them in that rotation, which is already a pretty good rotation as it is right now, and take your chances to win 88 to 91 games.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. 100% agree because they have Logan Webb already.
Right.
He's locked up for 5 seasons
Mhm.
starting in 2024. Yamamoto is like a special talent who's only 25. So
Right.
if you were to come away with this guy and you also add some offensive players that look, it's a weak class on offense outside of Ohtani, but there are some guys. And Jung-Hoo Lee, you know, as an alternative perhaps in center field to a Cody Bellinger, is only 25 himself out of Korea. And so if they were to get both of those guys, for example, and then add some other kind of complementary players, then
Who knows? You may get there.
Yes.
Well, that's Ben Kaspick from Locked On Giants. That's his thoughts on the Ohtani debacle. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows like this one, covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Thanks so much, Ben Kaspick. Thanks so much, Javi Reyes. And on a show that's also going to be dropped today, you're going to see there's 2 episodes dropped today. You're going to be hearing from Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies, and you're going to be hearing from Millard Thomas from Locked On Arizona Diamondbacks. Hey, let's do the trivia question. Who is the only player to win a postseason MVP award after signing a 10-year mega contract? Only one has won a postseason award after signing one of those big contracts. Write it down here on YouTube or on Twitter at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, in the Instagram, or Sully Baseball on Twitter and Instagram. And make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. It's there 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, talking about Shohei Ohtani and how it affects the rest of the league. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.